In today's build roundup, we're going to be checking out an at-home driving range, a bird feeder stand, a walkway trellis, a custom tool, and a drum platform for a marching band. All kinds of great projects. As always, let's jump in and check them out. First up is this really amazing golf driving range enclosure off of Griffin's back deck here. And this is really cool and probably the first time we've ever seen anything like this. You can see here the back deck that they have is on this slanted part of their property, and basically just wanted to build an enclosure so Griffin could drive golf balls into the enclosure, and then they go to the bottom, and then he picks them up. Now, just like all the projects we're going to look at, these are made with off-the-shelf electrical conduit that you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, different places like that, and then the pieces of conduit are connected together with maker pipe connectors, which we make and sell here in South Carolina. We sell them online, but we make them in South Carolina. And this whole thing is built out of electrical conduit and maker pipe fittings, and this thing is just really cool. And obviously, because it's on a slope, has to be kind of custom made, and the dimensions are custom to the slope, which makes sense why he DIY'd it, because I'm sure there aren't a ton of options out there, probably at all, for this kind of thing, but even with the custom dimensions. So that's really handy because he can customize the dimensions with conduit pretty easily. So we'll look at this here, and basically we've got the main enclosure is just one big box, as you can imagine. So we'll start and just kind of break this down that way. So you've got the 4 verticals in the corners here. And like I said, the ones that are farther away from the house are longer, just to account for the slope. And at the top of there, we can see he's using the 90-degree connectors from Maker Pipe. And those are the best things to do when you're creating boxes or enclosures, because you can create basically 3 connection points. You have the piece of conduit, in this case the vertical, going through the middle of the connector, and then you have one coming out each side, and of course it's the same for all 4 of those 90-degree connectors. And then basically about halfway down, he did the same thing again here, the 90-degree connector. The vertical runs continuously through it, and then he's got these 2 pieces coming out just to add a support pipe about halfway up, and it's basically the same exact connection as the top. Now at the bottom, they go straight down into, it looks like a cement block. Now I don't know if he made these cement blocks for the bases. You could easily do that. I remember a while back in the community, somebody shared a tutorial for how to do this with maker pipe and conduit and everything. I'll link that down below so you can check that out. But basically, it's just a cement block going down to, or at the bottom, anchoring this build, and the vertical goes directly into that. And then we can see here there are some other connection points. So we've got a T connector here that is basically where this vertical, or this piece of conduit, it's not a vertical, horizontal, is going from there to there. And I guess this is another 90-degree connector here, I would guess. Kind of the same thing as we saw up here and at the very top. And that's just basically connecting all of these pieces of conduit. And, again, the same thing here. So basically it's just one big box and rectangle, and then the bracing, or the rest of the pipes, are really just bracing. So we've got those T connectors connecting to the other vertical that's about halfway down the connector, and that is grabbing on, there's another T connector that sends this vertical down. And then we've got some 45-degree bracing. It looks like, I would imagine, most likely the 45-degree connector or the adjustable angle connector, either one of those. You can grab on and create angled bracing. Looks like there's 2 there grabbing on. And then above the 90, there's a couple more. So a lot of 45-degree connectors and bracing, which is obviously a good thing. You don't want this thing, crumpling and rolling down the hill behind your house. So that makes a lot of sense. And that's pretty much the main structure, just a lot of those 90s to create the main box shape. And then we've got the 45-degree bracing throughout, and then we've got some other connections here where he's got the T connectors joining and grabbing in a few places just to add some more bracing and more verticals. And we can look at the other photos. I believe we can see here this angled brace is basically connected to the pillar on the back of the house here using the maker pipe adjustable angle flange, grabbing on there. Or basically it's, there's holes in that so you can drill into the wood, and then this piece of conduit's going down and then grabbing on. That's got to be adjustable angle connector, I would imagine there. And then of course the conduit that comes out of it. And then we can kind of get another angle of the whole build. We can see the various connections here. And then of course the whole thing has netting around it. And that looks like that's secured, it looks like to the pillar. on each side, and then it's just kind of stretched around the conduit frame. So that makes a lot of sense. And I don't see any more connection points for the frame to the wood, to the deck, and to the pillars. I would imagine there's probably some 2-hole straps, some more flanges in various places, securing that in place there. Like I said, I'm sure, he did a good job of securing this so it doesn't roll down the hill. And we can see the other photos here and kind of take a look and see. Here's where he stands and then drives the ball into the net, and then that falls down below, and then he can kind of collect those down here at the very bottom. So just a really cool build, a lot of cool stuff in this, and just a really unique project, but really awesome and just really cool to see. So thanks so much, Griffin, for sharing this. I really appreciate it. Next up is this build from Keith, and this is a bird feeder stand. This is really cool, very simple project, but it has a couple of really cool hacks I wanted to highlight specifically. First of all, he said he custom made this base here, where he's got this metal plate that is basically bolted into the concrete. It looks like the studs come out of the concrete down below, go all the way through this metal plate here, and then he's got the nuts on top there, of course, to secure that metal plate in place. And he said he welded 3/4-inch EMT conduit down here to this metal plate, and then that 3/4-inch conduit is going up. And then on the outside, he basically built the bird feeder stand out of 1-inch conduit, and that rests on top of the 3/4-inch EMT and keeps that in place and allows the whole thing to swivel. So whenever he's standing on his deck here, he can swivel that over and reach the bird feeder without having to get a ladder out. And I guess you could take the whole thing off by just sliding it over top of the 3/4-inch as well. So that's really cool. But as far as the construction goes, it's super simple. That 1-inch EMT conduit vertical goes all the way to the top. We've got a T connector up here in the middle. And because that piece of conduit can run through the top of that connector, it's just one piece of conduit up here going all the way across. And then we've got the one vertical coming down with that one connection there, the T. And then on each end, he really did something cool. He used 2-hole straps and kind of bent the tabs. So instead of normal, they look kind of like this, where you drill through into the material. But instead of doing that, he bent the tabs. So the tabs are kind of bent down this way. And then the hole here is allowing him to basically hook onto the hole, and then the bird feeder attaches to this, and then of course has the bird feeder going down underneath it, which is really cool. And a really smart technique to create those hooks that way by just flipping over the 2-hole straps and then hanging those that way. So really awesome, really clever. Like I said, a super simple build, just one connector. Of course, it has the welded base and all that, so that's a little more complicated. But you don't have to do that. You could just secure a rebar stake in the ground and then put a piece of conduit over top of it and then kind of anchor it that way. Probably, want to do something heavy at the bottom to anchor it. We did a video a while back about an umbrella base. That's a good heavy base you could do, where this might even be on top of your deck and you don't have to drill into it. So a few different options there for securing that. But really cool build. Thanks so much, Keith, for sharing this. I love seeing it. Next up is a walkway trellis. This was shared by Amy, and this is really beautiful. Love seeing this project. And basically here we can see we've got this one photo to check out. And looks like there's verticals going along the walkway, and this is, you can see here, kind of a curved walkway. So I had to get really creative, but it's not really a problem with Maker Pipe and Conduit, because the way the verticals are attached, basically, you can see here, Amy's utilizing the fact that the through pipes on the connectors allow you to basically swivel the connectors in any direction that you need. So she's just using the common connectors, the T connector there, this one here, and then the 90-degree connector above that. We've talked about those a couple of the projects so far, just using those common connectors, but because she's taking advantage of the through pipe, allowing the connector to kind of be positioned any way you want along that, she's creating this really cool and unique shape. You can see here where it kind of follows the curvature of the sidewalk, which is really cool. And basically just a really simple project with a lot of verticals going down, and then just grabbing onto those with the 90-degree connector, it looks like, mostly, and then also some of the T connectors in a few different places to add those cross supports from one side to the other. And then anywhere that she needs a vertical going down to the ground, that's where the 90-degree connector comes in play, because you've got the one piece that goes continuously through the connector and then the two pieces that come out of it. And basically just did a combination of those to add a few places to create the overall structure. And then on top, we can see that she added some netting to the framework, and it looks like those are just held in place with metal zip ties here. We did a video on those a while back. I'll link that video down below. Those are a great option for securing things like netting in outdoor projects. that's pretty much it. 3/4 inch EMT conduit. Looks like various maker pipe connectors. All I see is the T or the 90 degree. And then we've got the netting secured to the frame with the metal zip ties. And this is just a really awesome project. So thanks so much, Amy, for sharing this. Great job. And we love seeing it. Next up is a really cool hack from Tetrode. And we love seeing this because we've talked about this a few times on the channel. You know, we have the threaded pipe inserts. We absolutely love them. We probably talk about them more than any other hack in the maker pipe system because they allow you to do all kinds of really cool stuff. And we've talked about making tools and buying tools for inserting those in. And they're kind of expensive because they're made for cycling and for bikes. But Tetrode recently shared a write-up and some pictures of a really cool hack for putting the threaded pipe inserts in the end of a piece of conduit. So basically, we can look at this here, and the coupling that he's using is basically acting as an outer sleeve for the tool and for the threaded pipe insert. So basically, the way this works here, here's a good picture. He's basically just using a socket here, as we can see. And then there is a bolt going through that. So you can imagine the bolt head is inside of the socket and then sticking out the bottom here. And basically just threaded on a couple of nuts here and then the threaded pipe insert, as we can see here. And he's using the non-lipped inserts, which are a little bit more of a pain than the normal lipped inserts to put in. So he's using those. So this really comes in handy. And you can see, basically, he's just going to be able to hammer the top of this socket, and that's going to drive this in, and then the coupling is going to act as a sleeve for everything, so you don't have to worry about it getting off kilter, and then you can basically just hammer this in really easily, and it's just using some, there it is, all the way inserted, you can see, and you know the threaded pipe inserts, of course, is inside the conduit, and then the whole tool is held in place by that coupling, which is awesome, and then there it is finished with the insert inside of it. Really cool, really awesome hack, and just utilizes some off-the-shelf hardware and a socket. I think he said it was a 17 millimeter socket, fits snugly inside of the coupler. And it looks like this is 3/4 inch EMT conduit. So, and then you can check out his post to see more of the information here. But that's basically it. That 17 millimeter socket, the bolt going through with a few nuts to hold the bolt in place. Then you just thread in your insert there, use the coupling as a guide for the tool, and then just hammer on top of the socket, and you got your insert put in. Really cool. This is really awesome. Love seeing this, Tetrode. Thanks so much for sharing this in the community. Last but not least, this is really cool. This is from Eric, who built a platform railing and for a drum set. This is really cool for a marching band. You can see here the platform is pretty basic, it looks like, just a wooden platform with some big casters on the bottom, and then basically just mounted EMT conduit to this platform to create the railing. And there's also a cool hack for the handle we'll look at here in a moment, but pretty standard overall. Just you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 verticals on each corner and one in the middle there. And then we've got, looks like a T connector grabbing on there, T connector there, and basically this piece of conduit runs from the front to the back, and so does this one. And then here we've got that common connector we've seen a few times today so far, the 90 degree connector, which allows the middle piece of conduit, the vertical, to run continuously through the connector. And then you've got the two pieces that come out at a 90 degree angle, and it works perfect for corners and things like this. So it looks like two 90 degree connectors there. And then in this middle piece here, he's using a connector that we haven't seen in this episode, which is the 180 degree connector. And it works very similarly to the 90, but it allows you to create a 180 degree angle, basically a straight connection instead of the 90 degree. So basically the vertical runs continuously through the 180, and then these two pieces that come out of it and are going from one side to the other, those are secured inside of the connector, and the middle piece of conduit, the vertical, runs continuously through it and is kind of in between those two pieces. But there's two of those used there, and that connector works really great in situations like this where you need to break up a long span, add a vertical support, and then continue that span. And it works really great for enclosures and projects that are really long that you need to reinforce. So that's cool. And the other side, it has 90s and then T connectors used to mirror basically this side here. It looks like he custom painted the connectors orange, and then you use some of the blue shrink wrap, which heats up around the conduit, and that looks awesome. He said it matches the school colors perfectly, which is really cool to hear. And then we can see there's a really cool hack to create this handle here. And we talked about this hack a while ago on the channel. Basically, it's just eye bolts or eye hooks threaded into the side of the wooden platform here. But basically, he's using those two things, those two eye hooks or eye bolts to capture this piece of conduit through the eye bolts. And we talked about that a while back. I'll put some B-roll over the video so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But basically, the conduit is captured in those eye bolts, and that allows the piece of conduit inside of there to swivel back and forth. And he just grabs onto that with a T-connector there, and that goes up and connects to another T-connector here that he's using to basically make a handle. You can grab onto this and then pull it and, you know, roll it out on the marching band field or on the football field for the marching band and for competitions, different things like that. We can see here they're using carabiners to hold the handle up, or basically just some more eye bolts bolted directly through the conduit on the build, on the railing, and then on the handle. And there's a carabiner between the two eye hooks that you can easily unhook and let this handle fall down so you can grab onto it and then, you know, have some mobility there when you're rolling that out. Really cool. And then here it is in place with the drum set on there. Looks like they're getting some practice in, and just a really cool build. And I'm pretty sure, didn't really see how this was secured to the base of the railing. If I had to guess, it's probably a flange mounted upside down on the railing, and the conduit is running continuously through that and through the wood there. I could be wrong, but that's how I would do it in this scenario, just so to make sure it's strong. We saw a build a while back. I'll put on the screen now. You can see the flange kind of mounted in that way, upside down, and then the conduit running continuously through it. But really cool. Looks awesome. Love the custom colors, and just a really great build. And all these builds will be linked down below if you want to check any of them out in more detail. And recently, I put up a poll on the channel and asked what you guys wanted to see different, if anything, with the MakerPipe Monday episodes. And there was a lot of votes on that and some really cool suggestions. And a lot of people wanted more information about the builds. And I'd love to know what specifically you guys want to see in these episodes. Do you want a list of parts and a list of hacks? Do you want links to everything used? You know, a lot of these builds people send in and we kind of guess, but maybe we can get more information from the builders and share that with you guys. But I'd love to know what you'd like to see more specific about the builds, and hopefully we can get that information for you guys and we can make this even more helpful. And thanks again for responding to that poll, and any other suggestion you guys have, feel free to leave them in the comments on the videos. Really appreciate you. If you liked the video, found it helpful, leave a like and consider subscribing. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one.